Hello everyone, welcome to whatifissei becomes the freezing dragon emperor part 1. Before we start, please go support DragongodAstaroth for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. Prologue. Kuo Town, Kuo Park, 3rd Pav. It was a beautiful Saturday evening in the town of Kuo, with everyone enjoying their time before going to work. School week to begin. But not as everything as they seem, since at Kuo Park near the water fountain lies a boy with spiky brown hair and hazelnut eyes. He wore a light blue sweater with a navy blue t-shirt, along with black pants and brown dress shoes. This boy was Issei Haidu, a second year at the prestigious school of Kuo Academy, which used to be an all-girls school, until it became co-ed last year. He was part of the perverted trio, or so people say. In reality, Issei didn't take in any participation in peeking at the kendo club and was more or less at the wrong place and the wrong time, but no believed him, since he would still talk to Mitsuda and Motohama, who were also part of the perverted trio. Issei will not lie that he did have perverted thoughts about some of the girls in his school, but that was to be expected of a normal for a boy his age, but he wouldn't go as far as peeking. The only person who believed him was his friend from middle school, Momo Hanakai, who was currently part of the student council. Back then they were close friends and would hang out all the time, but after enrolling into Kuo and Momo joining the student council, they became distant, which led to Issei talking to the perverted duo, which made everyone make him believe he was a member. In all honesty, the only reason why Issei even talked to those two was because he was lonely and wanted to make as many friends as possible, since a few years ago his parents died in a tragic car accident which left him orphan, but thankfully left Issei enough money to attend and finish school. But he did take on a part-time job at the local convenience store to help to pay for any things that he might want. But on Monday earlier this week after school, he was asked out by a mysterious black-hair girl named Yumma A.K.A. He accepted, since he always yearned to have a meaningful relationship, even if it meant his dream of one day having a harem would never come true. The date went well, and Issei enjoyed himself immensely, since he put his every thought into making sure his first date went as perfect as smooth it can be. But sadly, things went south when Issei and Yumma entered the park and reached the fountain where he is now currently dying. Since when they reached the park, Yumma asked Issei if he would die for her, which caught the brown-haired teen off guard, but when Yumma repeated the question, she sprouted black feathered wings and pierced through Issei's chest with a spear made out of pure light. But before she left, she said that if he wanted to blame someone, then he should God for putting a sacred gear inside of him, which confused him greatly. She even started to ridicule him and saying that no girl would want to be with a pervert like him, and that his parents' death was a blessing in disguise, since they wouldn't help raise someone like him. She even went as far saying that everyone that even tries to love you will always meet a fate far worse than death. Issei mind, weakly, damn, this fucking sucks massive balls. To think I would die from tiring to be a good guy and taking a pretty girl out on a date without trying to be pervert that everyone tries to make me out to be. Makes me wonder if this is somehow kind of a curse from the girls in school cause they saw me as a pervert. I mean, sure, I said I have a dream of having my own harem, but that is what every guy wants, right? I mean, I never once peeked at the girls in the kendo club unlike Motohama and Mitsuda, so I can't be that bad of a guy, right? Saddened, but damn, I really didn't want to go out like this. I wanted to at least graduate from college so that I can make mom and dad proud. I wanted to make so many friends so that we could hang out together. I wanted to at least be in at least one decent relationship before I died. Solemn, at least I'll be able to see my parents again. I'm sorry, Momo, even though we essentially stopped hanging out since we enrolled. I know that you'll be okay since you at least have the student council to help keep you company. Speaking of friends, I just remembered Rin. For some reason I felt he wasn't a boy at all. Chuckles, well, either way he's probably forgotten all about me by now and is enjoying his life in England or wherever he is right now. Good luck, man, and I hope you don't end up like this because you decided to give dating a try. Chuckles, for fuck's sake, they were right, you do start saying some crazy ass shit when you're about to die, huh? Sad, and I really don't want to die right now, sheds a single tear, I don't want to die alone. Serious, I can help with that. Issei mind, shocked, what, who's that? Where are you? Serious, relax kid, but let me ask you something, do you want to be a someone's slave? Issei mind, confused, no, especially since I'm not into that type of weird kinky shit. Why? Serious, well, there's a devil that's going to come and try to revive you as her slave, so if you want I can bail you out of that situation, but I'm gonna need your help in return. Issei mind, sweat drops, it's not gonna fuck me over in the end, right? Serious, nope, once you help me with my task you're free to do whatever you want afterwards, and as a bonus you'll become stronger than ever before. Issei mind, sighs, guess I have no other choice, I accept. Curious, by the way, who are you? Rin's name's Great Red, the Red Dragon God Emperor, as well as the most baddest dragon in existence. Issei was shocked to think that the being that was coming to his rescue was a dragon, and if he heard correctly, he said he was a god. Outside Issei's body a red magic circle appeared and out came a girl around Issei's age. She had buxom figure and bluish green eyes, but the most prominent feature about herself was her crimson scarlet hair. This woman was Rias Gremory, a high-class devil who came because it seemed that Issei activated the summoning flyer that her familiar gave to him earlier, since she sensed that this boy had a powerful sacred gear and could help her with her current predicament. Though that was not the only reason she really did sorry for the boy, since he was all alone, since he had no one to call family, and just like Momo, she as well as the rest of her club and the student council knew that he wasn't really a pervert like the other girls in his school made him out to be, and had just the tendency to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. Rias smiled sadly. So you actually summoned me? Don't worry, I will make sure that you are taken care of. But before Rias began the process in turning Issei into a devil by inserting 8 pawn pieces, a portal opened up beneath Issei's body and he fell right in. This shocked Rias since she had no idea what just happened. Scene change, dimensional gap. Within the endless and chaotic void known as the dimensional gap resides a giant red western dragon with golden eyes and a horn on its snout. This was Great Red, the dragon of dreams and illusions, the true red dragon god emperor, and the apocalypse dragon. He was currently staring down at a brown hair boy with hazelnut eyes who he just healed and just finished explaining to him the supernatural as well who he is. Great Red. Serious, that about sums it up. Issei. Amazed. Wow, I honestly can't believe that all of this was going on under humanity's noses. Sounds kind of kick-ass, now that I think about it. Great Red laughs out loud. I guess it would sound like that from your perspective. Curious, though I'm kind of surprised that you are taking this well, since I would imagine that most humans in your situation would go insane or go freak out like a little girl. Issei chuckles nervously. Well, maybe it's just taking a while for me to let it all truly sink in. Curious. So Yumma killed me because I had these sacred gears that the biblical god made so that humanity can fight equally against the supernatural. In that case, do you know which one I have? Great Red. Serious, it was actually because of your sacred gear that was one of the reasons why I saved you. You surprisingly have one of the 13 Long-Ina sacred gears, the boosted gear which holds the soul of one of the 2 heavenly dragons, Drag, otherwise known as the Dragon of Domination, and the Red Dragon Emperor. Issei. Amazed. Wow, confused. Wait, I thought you were the Red Dragon Emperor. Great Red. Tick mark. I am the true Red Dragon Emperor. But due to Drake power as well reaching heavenly dragon status, the other dragons decided to dub him the Red Dragon Emperor as well. Issei mind, sweat drops. Geez, sorry, I didn't mean to hurt the guy's pride. Issei. Curious. So what is it that you wanted my help with? Great Red sighs. Right, serious. You see, I've been sensing some dimensional disturbances from another dimension and I'm afraid that might reach our world. These beings, as the humans in that dimension call them Nova, which are supposedly aliens from a dimension next to theirs, and it seems that it may be a stalemate as well as close to a losing battle for the humans. If that world loses, then I believe the Nova will come to our world next through the dimensional gap and wreak havoc. Issei. Serious. That does sound serious, but why me? Why not a god or someone more powerful? Great Red sighs because if I asked anyone else, especially a god, they would probably make things worse on my end by letting my overbearing ego spread to that world, and since the supernatural no longer exists in that world, they would let their power consume and try to take over instead of helping. Serious, but you are different. I've seen your memories, Issei Haidu, you are in a way incorruptible. Even with the power I'm about to give you that will make you the strongest being in that dimension, you won't let it consume you and only do what is right. Besides, who better to ask another dragon, a fellow Red Dragon Emperor no less, grins. Think about 2 badass Red Dragon Emperors about to save the universe from a threat from another universe. Issei chuckles. I guess that is kind of badass when you think about it. Smirks. Alright, I'm in, so that do we have to do? Great Red grins. Alright, then first I'm going to. Emotionless. What are you doing, Baka Red? Great Red. Issei. Surprised, huh? Both Great Red and Issei turned their heads to see a cute young girl with long black hair down to her hips and black eyes. Her ears differ from a normal human's as they have pointed tips, although her long black hair makes this feature difficult to notice. Her black eyes have reptilian slitted pupils. Her attire consists of a black gothic Lolita fashion. This little girl was no other than Ophis, the jet black dragon god of infinity, as well as the leader of the Cows Brigade. She noticed that something different inside the dimensional gap, like someone besides Great Red was staying in it. Already annoyed that she had dealt with another person that was squatting in her home, she decided to see what was happening as well, try to see if she could defeat Great Red. But she was a bit surprised when she saw the host of Drake talking to her sworn enemy rival, but nevertheless she wanted to know what Great Red was up to, and maybe if she was lucky she could convince the host of Drake to join her, like she was able to convince Albion's host. Issei. Nervous. Great Red, who is that? Great Red eyes narrowed. What are you doing here, Ophis? Ophis. Emotionless. I should be asking you the same thing. What are you doing with the host of Drag? Great Red eyes narrowed. That's none of your concern. No, go back to your band of misfits that you honestly believe will help defeat me. But before Issei could ask what was going on, Ophis appeared right in front of him with an expression that was mixed with both curiosity and interest. Issei Nervous hello. Ophis. Smirks interesting tell me Drag why are you here with Baka Red? Issei. Nervous my name is Issei not Drag, even though I have his sacred gear I'm not him, and also I haven't really awakened him yet. Who you might be. Ophis. Emotionless Ophis, I am the dragon god of infinity. Now Issei was completely nervous cause he just got used to being around Great Red, since they were able to sync with one another, as well as him showing emotion. But this girl held nothing in her eyes, like if he was staring to endless void that didn't to see have an end in sight, but at the same time Issei could tell she was essentially like her form perceives her. Issei. Smiles nervously well Ophis it's to meet you, my name is Issei Haidu, and as for the reason why I'm here with Great Red is because he needs my help. Ophis. Emotionless I see eyes narrowed, why do you need Drag's help Baka Red? Great Red. Annoyed that's none of your concern. Issei. Curious Ophis, can I ask you something? Ophis. Emotionless yes. Issei. Curious why do you hate Great Red so much, he doesn't seem like a bad guy. Great Red. Exasperated finally someone says it. Ophis. Annoyed Baka Red took away my home, my silence. I want him out and regain my silence. Issei. Blinks in confusion so the dimensional gap is your home? Looks at Great Red is that true? Great Red. Serious first of all she left the dimensional gap to visit Earth for over 1,000 years and since I hated everyone staring at me when I was trying to do my stunts, I decided to move in here. But when she came back she got all pissy at me saying that I stole her home. I mean come on this place is literally infinite, I mean there is no reason why we both can't share it. So every time she would try to fight me I would just simply boot her ass out. Ophis. Annoyed because you always made too much noise. Issei. Sweat profusely I mean if that the case Ophis have ever thought of maybe somehow splitting the gap into two places, I mean like Great Red said the dimensional gap is infinite and if you decided to choose a place that you mostly wanted to spend your time in and told Great Red not go there, then I'm sure he would oblige. Plus you're a dragon god right? I'm pretty sure you can put up a powerful soundproof barrier around yourself so that Great Red can't bother you when he's doing his tricks right. Do you think that would be agreeable? Ophis. Thinking only if Baka Red agrees not to come to my side of the gap. Issei Great Red. Shocked really? Ophis. Nods yes. Issei. Nervous in that case you think you can help us Ophis? Because Great Red believes that there might be a threat to not only our world but also the dimensional gap. Since you are going to be moving back in here, why not help us make sure that it at least solely belongs to you too? Great Red. Surprised Issei are you sure about this? Issei. Serious come on Great Red I bet she can help, besides it's not like we're asking a different race or anything Ophis is still a dragon and a dragon god to be in fact. She can maybe help you with performing your plan a lot smoother than it was just you. Plus if you just follow the simple rules that Ophis asks, then you won't have to worry about her bothering you for like ever. Once we're done you can do all that you want in peace without Ophis or her band of misfits bugging you. Sighs look I understand that you probably wanted to make this a solely red dragon duo team up and this might hurt your pride a bit more than you might want to admit but this could be our best shot in making sure that the Nova can't come to our world as well the dimensional gap. Great Red. Thinking sighs I can't deny the logic in that regard since if Ophis and her group were to notice what we were doing then things might get a little too close to comfort. Issei. Nods exactly. Ophis. Curious what are Nova? It was then Great Red then started to explain the reason why he summoned Issei in the first place and how he believes that these interdimensional beings known as the Nova will most likely target our world next and use the dimensional gap as the gateway or bridge to it. Ophis took in all this information and thought about it and had to agree that Nova would indeed propose a problem, especially now since essentially more or less has got back her home, even if she had to share it with her mortal enemy, nevertheless she decided to agree to help them. Great Red. Serious Ophis what do you have to say about this? Ophis. Emotionless I'll help. Great Red Issei. Shocked really? Ophis. Nods yes, because I don't want anyone else disrupting the little silence I have left. It was then without reason Issei went up and hugged Ophis since he was thankful that Ophis was willing to aside her grudge towards Great Red and help them save their world. All the while Great Red essentially had a gobsmacked expression on his face since this kid, he who was just introduced to the supernatural literally 30 minutes ago, and not only did he get the Ouroboros dragon to stop being a pain in his ass, but he was also hugging her like if it was no one's business. It wasn't until Issei put Ophis down and gave her a few headpats that he finally realized that he just hugged a being that wiped him off from existence by essentially blinking. Issei. Panics nervously oh I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bows apologetically, please don't erase me from existence. Ophis. Curious while rubbing her head what was that? Issei. Confused what was what? Ophis. Curious what you just did to me, what was that? Issei. Nervous oh I just gave you a hug and a head pat, why? Ophis. Curious, what are hugs and head pats? Issei. Nervous, let me see, hugs and head pats are gestures that you do with people you care about. Ophis. Curious, and you care about me? Issei. Smiles warmly, well yeah, you're willing to help us save our home, and since we're all in this together, I guess you can say that I care about both you and Great Red. Ophis. Smiles softly, in that case I care about you too, Issei. Issei. Smiles, thank you, Ophis, and if ever want a hug or head pat from me, then all you would have to do is ask. Ophis. Smiles softly, okay. Issei. Smirk, so Great Red, what was that plan in order to help stop the Nova from reaching our world, and what do you want me to do? Great Red. Smirks, oh yeah, the plan, so I can gather the Nova are a collection of souls made out of negative emotions from that dimension's mirror universe. So hopefully the plan will be that I can create a pocket dimension in which the Nova can enter instead of that other dimension and hopefully dissipate in peace. As for you, I'm going to reincarnate you into the womb of a woman from that dimension that has special that is unique to those two dimensions. I will seal away both your sacred gear and your memories until you're about 6 years old. Afterwards I will summon you here and make you into a dragon and start your training. Your job there is to hopefully discreetly help the humans in that dimension take out whatever Nova that appears in that world. Size, though, given that you're soon going to be a dragon and we dragons tend to draw attention to ourselves, I would imagine you won't be able to keep your identity a complete secret for long. But at least try to keep the information about you being from another as well the supernatural a secret for as long as you can. Issei. Serious, I see then, can you tell me anything I need to know about this world? Great Red. Serious, besides the fact you'll be in a way sent to the future since the dimension you'll be sent to is in the year 2050, nothing really surprising since you'll more or less already know it by the time you'll get your memories back. If you're wondering about the time difference, then don't, since the space and time between our worlds are different, so you could live your entire life in that dimension and it will only be a little bit over a month here. Issei. Serious, I see, okay then, but Great Red, I have one favor before I go. Great Red. Curious, what is it? Issei. Eyes narrowed, it's about Yumma or whoever her real name is, I need to destroy her. I can't leave my world in good conscience, knowing that she's probably out there right now killing innocent people for God knows what else. So please, I ask of you, let me destroy her before she causes more harm to anyone else. Great Red. Concerned kid, I understand what you are trying to do, but with the way you are right now you won't stand a chance. The only way I can think you could take her out is if you unlocked your boosted gear and achieved balance or breaker, but that would take time that we simply don't have. Ophis. Emotionless, I think I can help with that. Great Red Issei. Surprised, huh? It was then Ophis opened up her hand and a giant black snake formed around it. Issei. Curious, Ophis, what is that? Ophis. Emotionless, this is a snake that is imbued with my power, and I have been told that it helps unlock users of sacred gear's potential and increases their power. But since you haven't proper form of training, I honestly don't know how long your body will last. Issei. Smiles while hugging and giving head pats to Ophis. Thank you, Ophis, I will take it, and besides, like Great Red said, I'll essentially die and be reincarnated anyway, so I'll be fine, I just need enough time to stop Yumma once and for all. Ophis. Nods while smiling softly, okay, just be safe. Issei. Smiles warmly, I will. Scene change. Guo Town, abandoned church 1 hour later. It has been an hour since Issei ingested the snake that Ophis offered him, and it was thanks to that he was able to unlock the boosted gear, as well as awaken Drag. When asked what the hell was going on, Issei explained what was going on and what they were soon about to do, which greatly shocked the newly awakened heavenly dragon to think his host who he just met had the honor of meeting both dragon gods as well as being able to stop them from fighting. He had to admit he was already greatly impressed by his new host despite being a regular human, but he also felt bad for his host from what he saw from his memories. His host has had the worst of luck and that Fallen had the gall to mock him for it. For the most part, both Issei and Drag hit it off pretty well, especially for Drag, since he felt like he was going to have a partner who was gonna talk to him and take his advice into consideration, unlike his other hosts who just mostly ignore him and only talk to them to give them more power. Before they left for the church, Issei asked Drag on how long he could balance breaker and if there was a way to hopefully keep his body from destroying itself, in which Drag told him thanks to the snake that Ophis gave, he should hold it for about 5 minutes, but in order to keep his body from destroying itself, he suggested that he turn multiple parts of Issei's body into that of a dragon to compensate, in which Issei offered his eyes, ears, nose, legs, and arms. With that, Issei almost essentially became half dragon and started heading out to finish off Yumma once and for all. Thankfully, Great Red told Issei that Yumma was holding up in the old abandoned church that he and Rinchan used to go to as kids. Currently we see Issei walking towards the church all the while mentally talking to Drag. Since he did enjoy his company, Ophis took the liberty of placing a barrier around the church so that it wouldn't attract the local devils, which also surprised him that they were run Rias Gremory and Sona Shitori, who turned out to be Sona Citri. Both dragon gods explained to Issei about the evil P system, which made Issei worried a bit for his friend Momo, since she was a part of the student council run by Sona. He mentally made a promise to himself that when he came back would look after Momo, because even though they essentially stopped hanging out, Momo was still Issei's friend. Issei mind, serious almost there. Drag. Serious, are you ready, partner? Issei mind, serious, more like I have to be ready, Drag. I can't truly leave this world with someone like her running around. Drag. Curious, what if she's not alone? Issei mind, eyes narrowed, my target is Raynare, and if they get in my way then they will meet the same fate. Drag. Serious, well don't look now because we have company. Issei. Serious while looking up him. It was then Issei looked up and saw three people that seemed to be fallen angels. The first one was a middle-aged looking man with short black hair and dark blue eyes. His attire consisted of a pale grey trench coat over a white dress shirt with a matching ascot, black pants and shoes, a pair of black gloves, and a black fedora. The second was a tall and buxom woman with brown eyes and long navy blue hair that obscured her right eye. Her attire consisted of a maroon trench coat-like top with a wide collar, a matching miniskirt, and black-heeled shoes. The trench coat top was open at her chest, giving view to her breasts and cleavage. She also wore a gold necklace around her neck. She appears to wear a white shirt underneath her top, but it can only be seen from the bottom. The last one was a girl with blonde hair which was styled into twin tails and blue eyes. She wore a gothic Lolita attire, which consisted of a black dress with white frills, a large black bow on the front, and a green jewel embedded on the collar, white thigh-high socks, and black shoes. She also wore a large black bow on top of her hair. These people were Donaseek, Raynare, and Mitlet, part of the group of fallen angel groups that worked under Raynare. Donaseek. Serious, I'm assuming that you are the one that cast this barrier. Issei. Serious, I have no quarrel with you three, I'm only after Raynare. If you promise not to interfere and leave this town peacefully, then I promise that you three will live. It was then all three of them started laughing since they thought this human could come up to them and threaten them to stay down. Mitlet. Laughs, wow, that was a pretty impressive joke there, honestly you should do stand up. Raynare. Giggles, my you're so cute thinking you can just boss us around like that. Smirks, I mean that in both literally and figuratively. Issei. Eyes narrowed, sorry, but the last girl who said that to me ended up putting a hole through my chest, so I'll sadly have to decline. Eyes turning into slits, now tell me where Raynare before I have to force it out of all of you. It was then Issei unknowingly released some power from the result of absorbing Ophis's snake, as well as turning most of his body into that of a dragon, which definitely got the attention of the three fallen angels, which got them on guard. It was then all three of them summoned light spears and threw them right at Issei, who was able to dodge them in time. Issei. Serious, okay, then we're doing this the hard way. In that case, boosted gear. It was then a bright light engulfed Issei's arm and out came a red dragon-like gauntlet that reached all the way up to his shoulder with green gems and golden spikes. This honestly terrified the three fallen angels since they weren't expecting to fight someone who had a powerful sacred gear. Issei then started boosting himself 3 times since Drag said it should be enough to take the three fallen in front of him. Issei first went after Mitlet, who thankfully took a good judo chop to the neck to actually knock her out. He then went after Donaseek, who was throwing a barrage of light spears at Issei, which sadly Issei couldn't dodge all of them, but he was able to get in front of Donaseek and send a powerful punch to the gut that sent Donaseek flying through 3 trees and thankfully knocking him out. But there was finally Raynare, who essentially stood horrified that this boy just took out 2 of her comrades, like if they were nothing. Issei was slowly walking up to her, all while unknowingly letting his draconic aura, which was essentially telling her to submit if she wanted to live, in which she put her hands up as a sign of surrender. Raynare. Scared, please, I surrender, I don't want to die. Issei. Serious, will you and your group leave here for good? Raynare. Scared, we can't. Issei. Eyes narrowed, why not? Raynare. Scared because we were given orders to stay here and wait for a nun with a powerful healing sacred gear and take it away from her. Issei. Eyes narrowed, who gave that order? Because from what I heard Azazel is more interested in the users of sacred gear than the gear itself. Raynare. Scared, it was Lord Kakabiel, he said Azazel wanted us to do this and that if we succeeded then we would be promoted. Issei. Sighs in annoyance, I see, when is the nun supposed to arrive? Raynare. Nervous, in a few days, why? Greg. Serious, we can't wait a few days, partner, because we only have a little under an hour to get this done before heading back to the gap. Issei mind, serious, I know, but I can't let this happen because something tells me that this nun probably has no idea what she's getting herself involved in. Sighs, I guess I have no other choice but to maybe hand the nun over to the devils in my town, even though I don't entirely trust them. Great Red said that both Rias and Sona are peaceful for the most part, so if anything this nun would be the most safe. Greg. Curious what about this Fallen and her comrades? Issei mind, serious Raynare must die no matter what, but as for this one and her comrades, they have no direct involvement with me, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't be punished for their involvement. So I think I will have this one bring the nun over to the devils and that they should return back to the Gregory and I'll let Azazel decide their punishment. Thinking but how to make sure she doesn't double-cross me? I know. Issei. Serious Ophis. Raynare. Confused huh? It was then out of nowhere Ophis appeared next to Issei, which shocked and terrified Raynare since she could sense the immense amount of energy irradiating from her. Issei. Serious what is your name Fallen? Raynare. Scared my name is Raynare. Issei. Serious in that case, Raynare when the nun arrives you are to hand her over the devils and you and your group are to return to the Gregory and explain to Azazel what you've done. Curious Ophis. Ophis. Curious yes. Issei. Curious do you have a way so that Raynare doesn't betray us and continue trying to extract the nun's sacred gear? Ophis. Nods yes. It was then Ophis summoned another snake, but this didn't have any power like the one she gave to Issei. The snake then slithered its way towards Raynare till it went inside of her through her mouth. It made Issei kind of uncomfortable at the sight he was seeing, since it looked like one of those fucked up hentais that he saw with Mitsuda and Motohama, which resulted in him in never going over to their houses again, and it also made him question on how the fuck does that type of shit turn someone on, which acknowledgedly made a certain raven hair girl sneeze out of nowhere. When it was done Raynare was gasping for air and felt extremely uncomfortable since she could still feel that snake in her throat. Raynare. Scared and confused what did you do to me? Ophis. Emotionless that snake will let me know what you will do henceforth, it will disappear once it knows that the nun is handed over to the devils and you and your group return to the Gregory and confront Azazel. Failure to do any of this will result in the snake destroying you. Issei. Smiles while giving Ophis a head pat good job Ophis. Looks at Raynare seriously now then Raynare do you understand the situation that you're in? Raynare. Nods fearfully. Issei. Serious good, now then to take care of Raynare. As Issei and Ophis started to walk away, Raynare called out to them because she needed to know something. Raynare. Nervous wait. Issei. Turns his head with a serious but also curious expression what is it? Raynare. Nervous who are you? Both the Devil Heiresses as well as Azazel will want to know who was the one who forced me to do all this. Issei. Serious tell them that the Red Dragon Emperor sent you. This shocked Raynare to no end, since it was no wonder her group stood no chance against him as well, there being no doubt that Raynare was about to die. It was then Issei and Ophis continued their walk towards the church to put an end to Raynare once and for all. After a few minutes both Issei and Ophis reached the door to the church. Issei asked Ophis to stay here while he took care of it, while she just nodded since she understood that this was personal for Issei. Once he was inside he was met with Raynare with her fallen angels out on display. She was currently wondering why there was a barrier around the church as well why her comrades weren't responding, but was startled as well as surprised that Issei was in the room. Raynare? Shocked Issei. Annoyed how the hell are you still alive? Issei. Smirks looks like there was a god looking out for me, but just not the one you would expect. Raynare. Annoyed no matter, I'll just kill you until you stay dead. Smirks darkly because no matter what, you will always be a person who can never be loved, don't you get it already? You're cursed. Everyone that you become close to or loves you will always be met with disappointment or will meet a fate far worse than death, your parents are prime examples. I bet a part of them felt relieved that they were dead since they didn't have to take care of you anymore. Issei. Eyes narrowed enough, I'm going to make sure that people like you are wiped from existence since people don't deserve to live. Raynare. Smirks darkly that's calling the kettle black. Issei. Growls in anger enough, Drag. Welsh dragon over booster. It was a bright red light engulfing Issei's body and when it died down Issei was donned in red dragon metallic armor with green gems in certain parts of his body. This both shocked and terrified Raynare since she didn't. Issei would not only be the Red Dragon Emperor, but he also unlocked his balance breaker. A deep cold shiver went up her spine when Issei spoke behind the armor. Issei. Serious now then let's finish our date Yumma. Boost 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 boost. It was then using his jet thrusters he charged right at Raynare who was barely able to dodge in time. She tried attacking back by throwing a multitude of light spears at Issei, but he either just ignored them or swat them away like insects. Issei was eventually able to grab one of her legs up in the air and threw to the ground which destroyed some of the seats in the room as well as caused the ground around her to crack a bit. Raynare was struggling to get up and coughing up bits of blood, she couldn't believe that Issei was this strong in only a matter of a few hours. It was then Issei still clad in the red armor walked up towards Raynare and summoned a tiny small red orb and aimed it right at Raynare, but not without removing his helmet because he wanted Raynare to look at him straight in the eyes to remind her that she was the one that brought this upon herself and no one else. Issei. Serious, any last words, Raynare? Raynare? Please Issei, can't we talk about this? Smiles, I truly meant what I said and that I really did enjoy our date. Shows him the bracelet, see, I even kept the bracelet that you bought me. Issei. Roars in anger, shut up. Raynare. Scared, huh? Issei. Saddened while shedding a single tear, I loved you, Raynare, I would have done anything for you. If you would have just asked me to join you, I would have done so in a heartbeat because that's how much I love you. I didn't care what we did, no matter how vile and inhumane it was, because as long I knew I had you I would even take on the whole universe if need be. Raynare. Smiles hopefully, in that case. Issei. Saddened, but you destroyed any hope of that because you did kill me, Raynare, you killed my heart. Even now I don't think I will ever love again because of what you did. So then. Raynare. Panics Issei, wait. Issei. Saddened with his hair covering his eyes, goodbye my love. Boom. It was then punched by the small red orb which caused it to form a giant beam that completely destroyed Raynare for good. Once the smoke settled down, Issei deactivated his armor and all around him were black feathers around him. As he looked up, all he could do was shed more tears as the memories of his date with her replayed in his mind. It was at that moment Issei unknowingly froze his heart completely, since for now and forever he will never fall in love like he did with Raynare ever again. Ophis. Emotionless, are you done, Issei? Issei. Smiles sadly while head patting Ophis, yes I am, we can go now, Ophis. Ophis didn't know how to feel with those words. Issei said he did indeed do the head pat, but she felt concern for the emotion, or lack of a better word, of emotion behind those words. She inwardly hoped that Issei will one day move past this and be able to be truly happy like before. It was then Ophis opened a portal back to the dimensional gap so that Great Red can start the process of transferring Issei's soul. Scene change. Dimensional gap. Issei and Ophis had just returned from the abandoned church where they were greeted by Great Red. When the mighty dragon asked Issei if finished his business there, he was a bit shocked as well as a bit worried for the lack of emotion in his words. He truly hoped that he didn't become even more emotionless like Ophis. He deeply hoped that this new world might help him rekindle a bit of the old flame that he saw in him before. Great Red. Serious, okay then, in that case you ready, kid? Issei. Nods ready, smiles softly, see you in 6 years, Dreg. Smiles, see you soon, partner. It was then Great Red, using his power over dreams, separated Issei's body from his soul, which also held the boosted, and sent it through a rift into the other dimension and into the womb of Ori Aoi. He also used his power to make it that both her and her husband Ryuichi would name him Issei instead of something else, so that Issei wouldn't have to struggle too much about having two names. When it was done, he had a solemn look that he hoped that his fellow Red Dragon would hopefully find happiness and experience love again. Great Red mind, solemn, I wish you the best of luck, kid. Japan, random military graveyard. 16 years later. Pav. We see ourselves at random military graveyards in some parts of Japan. Within said graveyard there is a young man in his teenage years praying in front of a grave, 16 nearing 17 to be exact. He had black spiky hair with red accents along one side of it. He also had red eyes. The boy also had a very muscular build, not so much that he would be considered a bodybuilder, but more in the lines of a swimmer's body, built for both speed and power, with no baby fat none so ever, and every muscle in his body was like a wind-up spring waiting to be released. He wore blue khaki pants and a yellow vest with a white dress shirt underneath. This boy was Issei Aoi, or Issei Haidu to be exact. He was giving his respect for his older sister Kazuha and was waiting for his transport to West Genetics since he wanted to keep his promise to his sister to be a limiter, but in reality Issei was honestly getting tired of playing in the sidelines. Issei. Praise thoughtfully, rest well sister, I will truly miss you when I'm gone. Greg. Curious, are you really going to miss this place? Issei. Smiles thoughtfully, I would be lying if I said I didn't like living here. Even though my upbringing was questionable. It's been 16 years since he was reborn into this world, and for the most part it has been lacking for a better challenge. The first being his birth, in which he has two moms since his body was mostly made out of stigmata, which his original mother Ori couldn't handle the strain of giving birth to him. So in order to save his life, his grandfather removed him from his mother's womb and into his aunt Cassandra. What shocked his family the most, especially his grandfather Jengo, was how Issei looked when he was born, since black hair also had a red accent to it as well, his eyes being red as well. What surprised them the most was the markings that Issei had on both of his shoulders, with a purple snake making the infinity symbol on his right shoulder and a red western dragon with 4 wings on his left shoulder. But sadly his birth caused a great tragedy in the Aoi family, since Issei naturally they didn't see Ori as his mother, and such she became deranged and almost tried to suffocate him in his sleep, which was thankfully stopped by his older sister Kazuha Aoi, who unfortunately had to stab their mother in order to save him, in which their mother died on the way to the hospital. It only got worse for Issei since almost immediately afterwards his father went into a great depression and blamed both Cassandra and his grandfather for all his suffering. He even raped his aunt out of spite, in which he killed himself afterwards. When Issei turned 6 years old and finally all of his memories back along with his connection with Drag, in which he was summoned by Ophis, in which she brought him into the dimensional gap in order to receive his new body, Great Red decided to install the stigmata components into Issei's new body, along with quite a bit of his power. Ophis did the same, in which she personally gave Issei her blessing and a bit of her own power. This resulted in Issei's body, which can easily withstand the power of both Great Red and Ophis, as well as in a way making Issei their biological son. It made it so that Issei's body could most likely reach Heavenly Dragon class easily, and in a few years depending on progress will even make him Dragon God class. During the next 5 years he would live alone with his older sister, who he became very fond and protective of, despite knowing the truth of what her and their family were. Issei during that time came to see Ophis and Great Red as parental figures, which caused Ophis to think for a while, since never thought of in all her years, that she never thought she would have a child of her own, especially with Great Red with all people. Finally deciding that she would take the role as Issei's mother, she should take on a more mature appearance to appear more motherly to Issei. Great Red had come to the same conclusion, since Issei was not wrong in that regard, since his new body and DNA was made out of both their bodies, then in all respects he was Issei's father, plus he thought it would be cool and badass to raise another true dragon that is cool and badass as him. Issei also came to see Drag as a cool older brother figure who would always have his back and would give him some pretty good advice. During those years, whenever his sister was away or was sleeping, Issei would either be training with Drag within the boosted gear or head into the dimensional gap to train with Ophis and Great Red, in which he was able to master his draconic abilities as well as his sacred gear. Issei was able to get rid of the curse of the Juggernaut drive by defeating all the past users of the boosted gear, which resulted with a more powerful and safer version of the Juggernaut drive, to which Issei and Drake called it the Imperio Juggernaut Overdrive, which made the power of the original Juggernaut drive look like a joke. Issei also discovered that he was also able to produce Volt textures and weapons, as well as use the abilities that only Pandora were able to use. It was during that time Issei would go out and take out Nova that would appear more randomly than what his grandfather would predict, though even though he would try to keep his activity as secret, his actions were noticed by Chevalier and was called the Red Nova Slayer, which caused massive uproar in their HQ because everyone was blaming someone for this creation, which thankfully no one still hasn't figured it out, yet even his Django, who was for a while obsessed with the mystery of the Red Nova Slayer, since he could tell it, outranked even the power of the legendary Pandora. Though sadly, when the news that Kazu had died in the 8th Nova clash, Issei felt so weak since he felt like he should have done something, but he couldn't for the sake of the mission that he was given by his father. It was also during that night he had his first freezing field, in which he met his grandmother Maria Lancelot, which at first she was confused since she could tell that this boy did not have her blood, but she could tell Issei was no doubt a grandson. Issei then explained to Maria everything about him and his mission in this dimension, which shocked Maria to no end, but in the end, she did truly feel sorry for Issei, since no matter how she looked at it, Issei was still her grandson and wished him to be happy. They would occasionally chat in the transcendent plane and talk about his training and about his day would go, which Issei enjoyed greatly since he did enjoy spending time with his grandmother, though he would get annoyed and flustered whenever his grandmother would tease him about his love life since he had a lot of love admirers throughout middle school. She even went as far recommending her daughters since they weren't technically related, which would make Issei's face redder than Great Red scales, but in the end, he would sadly tell her that it wouldn't work out, which deeply saddened her, and she hoped that her grandson will get past that and be able to find love again. Not long after, Issei unlocked his unique power, in which both him and his family called Void Manipulation, in which both Great Red and Ophis told Issei that if he were to completely master this ability, then Issei would no doubt surpass them in time. During the last 5 years, Issei has developed a bit of a delinquent bad boy personality and became a huge motorcycle and car enthusiast, which made Great Red extremely proud that his son was becoming a badass just like him, in which he rewarded him with his first motorcycle. All the while his grandfather was both curious and confused on why his grandson was so strange and how he has changed in the last few years and how he was able to afford such vehicles without him knowing. It made him believe more that his grandson was hiding something from him, but he couldn't figure out what. About a month or so ago in this dimension, Great Red told Issei that he and Ophis should be done with a pocket dimension for the Nova, in which they can enter and die peacefully by the end of the year, in which afterwards they initiate phase 2 of their plan. Greg grins, maybe you should take them with you, since your grandma thinks you would definitely be their type. Issei tick mark, well embarrassed, you know, sometimes you want me to go into that sacred gear and beat the shit out of you. Greg grins, bring it, bitch. Even if you are the youngest dragon god in existence, I'll gladly take you on. Right now Issei was on par with the members of the number 1 on the strongest beings in existence, were only slightly weaker than his father Great Red, but is stronger than his mother Ophis. This made everyone in Issei's family happy since there was officially a new dragon god in the world and will no doubt bring big change for the dragon kind. Great Red was especially happy since there was another true dragon like him in the world. Issei smirks with one eye closed. At least I have you to help give me a challenge when mom and dad are busy creating the pocket dimension. Greg grins with excitement. Though I am excited for when finally return to our dimension. I can't wait to see the look on Albion's face when he sees how fucking op we are. Issei chuckles. I will not lie that I'm also excited to finally meet Vali and see what the descendant of Lucifer is made of. Though I hope I'm not gonna straight out kill him as we meet, right? I mean, according to mom, it's been only half a month back in our dimension, and if he's supposed to be the strongest white dragon emperor in existence, I don't want to snuff him out before he could reach his full potential. Smirks. Plus if I kill him, then who am I gonna fight for entertainment, since I don't think there will be anyone with his potential again. During his training, Issei asked his parents if they knew who and where his supposed fated rival was, in which Ophis told him that his name was Vali Lucifer and he was the great-grandson of the original King Lucifer, which made him possibly the strongest white dragon emperor past, present, and future, which got both Drag and Issei interested and couldn't wait for what their encounter might be like. Drag smirks. I suppose you are right about that, since if we do kill him, then all of Albion's future hosts will be too scared to fight us and at that point just destroy my soul already. Grins. But we are gonna slap him around, right? Issei grins. Damn straight we are. Greg laughs out loud. This is why you are my best host, little brother. Vroom. It was then Issei turned around to see a transport chopper ready to take him to West Genetics. Issei smirks. Alright then, let's end this year with a bang, shall we? Scene change. Inside carrier ship on the way to West Genetics. Inside the carrier heading towards West Genetics, we see Issei casually tuning up his bike, all the while somewhat talking to a girl around his age or at least a year older. The girl was an average teenage girl. She generally keeps her eyes narrowed to slits. She has blonde hair that reaches down to her shoulders, 2 tied-up bangs covering her cheeks, and 2 forehead bangs split up in the middle. This girl was Chiffon A.K.A. Fairchild, one of Issei's aunts who is acting the current student council president, and she was explaining, or at least trying to explain, what his role is as a limiter and how it would work, but Issei more or less ignored her and said that he already knew about it since he studied it in his grandfather's notes in order to be the best limiter he can be, and just kept making sure his bike was properly primed. Though Chiffon couldn't help but stare at Issei, whether because she was surprised on how his nephew was acting or how shockingly good-looking he was. Chiffon curious. Oh Issei, now that you know the basics, I hope you know what you are getting yourself into. Issei serious. I understand Ms. Fairchild, but I made a promise to my sister that I would be a limiter and help however I can to stop the Nova. Chiffon smiles. Very admirable for you. I would have thought you hate Pandora and limiters alike since your sister's death in the 8th Nova clash. Issei sighs in annoyance. I'm not a child, Ms. Fairchild. Chiffon curious. Issei serious. This is war, and in war there are always casualties. My sister knew that better than anyone, hence why she knew what she signed up, and so do I. Chiffon mind serious. It's amazing how mature he is about all this, since if I remembered correctly that Issei here was quite fond as well as being protective of Kazuha. Chiffon smiles. You certainly mature for a boy your age. I bet you're going to have a lot of girls are gonna ask you to be their limiter. Issei mind sighs. If I didn't know what that intel was, then I would jump and join Saturn, but I know it would never work with any of them. Issei smiles. Why, thank you for the compliment, Ms. Fairchild. Chiffon blushes. Huh. Issei chuckles. I truly didn't mean to make you flustered like that. I don't mean to make you uncomfortable. Chiffon blushes nervously. No, I just Issei chuckles. My goodness, you truly are an interesting person. Ms. Fairchild curious. Oh, by the way, can I ask you something? Chiffon curious. Yes, what is it? Issei curious. I wasn't sure how close you are with Sister Margaret, but did she tell you about my request before coming here? Chiffon smiles. Yes, she did. At the request you made to your grandfather, you were given Hangar 14 as your personal garage for your bike and car. Curious. Though I am curious on how you were able to convince Dr. A.K.A. to your request. Issei sighs. It was not easy, to let me tell you. I essentially had to swear that I wouldn't do any of my usual antics while I was attending this academy. Chiffon curious. Oh, and what kind of antics would you get into? Issei smiles. Well, I wasn't actually a guy who liked following the rules per se and would end up partying at clubs as well as getting into a lot of street races. Sighs, which honestly kind of blows since those were the only things I did for fun. Issei mind serious. The first thing I'm gonna do when I get back home is head straight for Kyoto and get into the street racing circuit there. Chiffon smiled mischievously. So you're kind of a bad boy, aren't you? What kind of parties and races do you partake in? Issei raises an eyebrow in curiosity. Are you going to tell me? Chiffon Smiles while waving her hand. Oh heavens no, actually if you promise not to tell anyone I actually snuck out to go clubbing myself when I was first year. Issei. Whistles while smirking. My so you're one of those good girls by day and bad girls by night. Respect. Chiffon. Blushes. Well it was during my naive years, so all you know. Issei. Confused. What are you talking about? You're still young and still have some good years left in you and the occupation that we're in, I'm surprised you still don't do it. Smiles because remember no matter how you get, fighting the Nova is always a dance with death and who knows when a Nova appears so might as well treat your life like it was your last. Smiles warmly but I do understand we need to stay vigilant as well. Chiffon. Blushes. Thank you for understanding as well as the compliment. Greg. Grins. Look at your natural grade A Casanova, already wooing your aunt now. Issei mind, annoyed. Shut up. Issei. Smiles. As for the races I took part in, I mostly took part in motorcycle races, but I took part in some car races as well. Smirks. I was so famous on the streets that I earned quite the nickname for myself, which granted me quite a bit of respect in the not so pleasant side of Japan. Chiffon. Curious. Oh really, what was your nickname? Issei. Smirks. The Red Dragon Emperor. Scene change. West Genetics, hangar area. It's been about an hour since Issei and Chiffon's flight towards West Genetics. Issei decided to take a small nap for the rest of the flight, while Chiffon couldn't stare at him, which kind of annoyed Issei. He now understood why his father hated it when people would constantly stare at him. When they landed they were a woman who was around Chiffon's age. The girl was of moderate build and average height, as well as her having black hair. She wore the genetics girl uniform. This person Ticey Fennel, the vice president of the student council, as well as a good friend of Chiffon. Ticey. Smiles. Hello Chiffon, how was your field trip? Chiffon. Smiles. It was great. Ticey. Curious. Where's Issei? Chiffon. Confused. Huh. Looks around. Where did he go? Vroom. Chiffon. Ticey. Shocked. Huh. It was then Issei on his bike drove out from the back of the carrier ship and did a quick drive around the hangar area full throttle, which made both Chiffon and Ticey sweat drop at this, since it made them feel they had a lot of work on their hands. When Issei was done he pulled up to both Chiffon and Ticey with a satisfying smirk on his face. Issei. Smirk. Sorry about that, but I couldn't help to take her out for a spin and test out the fuel I made for her, and being here in this field was essentially just asking me to test her out. I can say without a doubt I did a pretty kick-ass job. Chiffon. Sweat drops. Okay. Smiles. Anyways, this person next to me is Ticey Fennel, as well as the student council vice president. Ticey. Smiles. It's a pleasure to meet you Issei. Issei. Smiles. The pleasure is all mine. Ticey. Blushes. Issei. Smiles. Now let me just pick my inside my garage and we'll get started on tour, okay? Scene change. West Genetics. After Issei safely put away his bike in his garage, they began their tour around West Genetics Academy. Issei was shown to the many facilities around campus which impressed Issei, though it kind of annoyed him that the girls around the school would keep on staring with pure lust in their eyes. Currently they were walking through corridors of the medical wing, while Chiffon was explaining to Issei that the Pandora every once in a while would have something called the Carnival, which was a battle royal against Pandora that determines which among them would be the strongest. This intrigued Issei since a part of him wanted to take part of this to show all these he was strongest, but before any of them could go any further they were interrupted by an explosion, and out came a girl with her uniform shredded so much that her breasts were exposed. The girl in question has long pink-colored hair which is done in two large pigtails, curled at the tips and tied off at the top with blue ribbons. Has brown eyes. She wears the standard Pandora outfit. Annoyed? No fair, what's the point of getting stronger if she's gonna get stronger too? Looks Issei angry while being embarrassed on top of trying to cover herself. Hey, what are you staring at you creep? Issei mind, curious, have I met her before? Issei. Serious while raising an eyebrow. I'm the creep. I was literally minding my own business until you came crashing in here causing property damage. It's not my fault you didn't consider checking your current attire before barging in. So in this case aren't you the one being a creep? Embarrassed? Huh? Both Chiffon and Ticey were surprised and shocked at how talking to an upperclassman is considered a huge offense in this school, even if Issei was technically right. But before Chiffon could reprimand Issei for talking back to an upperclassman, another girl came dropping in. The girl was an attractive fair-skinned young woman in her late adolescent years, with back-length blonde hair that had several bangs hanging over the left side of her forehead, with a blue headband over her hair to keep it in place. She has medium blue eyes. Her genetics uniform is also unique compared to the standard issue Pandora uniform, a long red dress that reaches to her ankles with gold accents and sleeves with crowned shoulder guards that bear the genetics emblem. The dress has a cutout around her breasts, exposing her cleavage, with a blue ribbon situated at the top, grazing the sensitive skin. Her footwear, she wears brown-heeled laced boots which reach up to her knees over long stockings with brown garter belts. For some reason when Issei saw her from behind he couldn't help but widen in disbelief because she looked just like his late sister Kazuha, or more precise his aunt Cassandra, but Issei shook away those thoughts since he damn well that his sister was never coming back as well as his aunt was still in cryostasis. But as if it was the transcendent will, fate, or just plain dumb fucking luck, the debris that the girl was standing on crumbled and she fell backwards, which caused Issei to instinctively catch her and carry her bridal style. Both Chiffon and Taisi were completely shocked since they were dumbfounded on why Issei would touch her of all people. All the while Issei couldn't help but stare at her, and for once after his date with Raynare he began to blush. Was it because of her beauty, or was it because he felt a deep connection behind those eyes of hers? Well, the girl couldn't help but blush slightly at the sight of the person who caught her as she looked into those red crimson eyes. She couldn't help but see something dark within them, like the boy was in deep pain, but also had a deep sense for longing, but refused to let it surface. It almost took her a full minute before she finally realized that someone was touching her, in which she started to get all flustered and panicked. But it was too late since the pink-headed girl from before took advantage of the situation and decided to attack, which resulted in the girl that Issei was holding to being severely injured. Smirks, this fight is not over yet. In pain AAHH. Scene change. West Genetics, campus grounds. It's been about 2 hours since the defeat of the untouchable queen, in which Issei found out that her name was Sadalizer Albridget, who was a second year and was top student in her year. While the other girl was named Ganessa Roland, which finally made Issei remembered her. She was one of the first years that he saved last year when an S-type Nova appeared during their training exercise, though he did fail to save the second year Marin Maxwell. But she did thank him with her dying breath that he able to save all the first-year girls since she believed it was her duty as their senior to protect them. Currently we see Issei walking around the school grounds with Chiffon and Taisi heading towards the boys' dorm after meeting with Sister Margaret. All the while he couldn't help get Sadalizer out of his mind. He did feel bad for her since no matter how he looked at it, he was the cause of why she lost and wanted to apologize to her since as a fellow warrior, he would be pissed if someone would interrupt his battles, especially when the finally came to him to fight volley. All the Drag saw the interaction that his little brother had with the Albridget girl, which caused a slight change in him. He didn't want to bring it up to him, since he knew how sensitive he would be about that, but instead secretly sent a message to both Great Red and Ophis about what happened, since he personally believed that this girl might be the one to heal little brother's frozen heart. Issei was then brought out of his thoughts when Chiffon started to talk about how much of a rebel, as well as causing quite the stir on his first day. Chiffon smiles, I have to admit I had no idea you would be the one to cause such a ruckus on your first day of school, truly are a rebel, aren't you? Issei mind, serious, why can't I get her face out of my mind? Was it because she looked like a mixture of both Kazuha and Cassandra? Nods, no, that's not it, I'm not that naive and fucked up. Serious, could it be that I'm developing some sort of attraction towards her? Nods furiously, no, that can't be. Sad, and besides, it would not work out for both of us. Drag mentally sighed at his little brother's thoughts about Sadalizer, since even though Great Red, Ophis, and Drag begin to see Issei truly beginning to become happy, he still wouldn't let himself to get involved romantically with another person, since that wound seems that the scar Raynare left was still far too deep to be healed by anyone. Chiffon smiles, as you already heard from the announcement that the girl you were holding was a second year named Sadalizer Albridget. Prior to that little accident she was the top-ranked student in her grade. Though we call it a carnival, it's still an official battle to determine the ranking of all our Pandora, and even though what happened was definitely unfortunate, but a loss is still a loss in the judge's eyes. I'd be careful if I were you, something tells me I should hold a grudge for this. Issei serious, actually there is something I wanted to talk to you about that. Taisi curious, talk about what? Issei serious, I know that she's probably mad at me, so I want to know if you could tell me where to find her so that I can apologize. As a fellow warrior I know that I did something unforgivable, and thus I need to make sure I pay her back somehow for losing her rank, since she must have some sort of pride in it. Chiffon worried and concerned, that is absolutely the last thing you should do, please just trust me on this. Making her lose was just the tip of the iceberg, and the fact that you touched her was a big no-no. Issei confused, what does touching her have to do with anything? Chiffon concerned while grabbing hold of Issei's shoulders, Issei, as student council president, it is my sworn duty to protect you. Issei serious, I can take care of myself, you may not think, but I'm pretty strong myself. Chiffon concern, you don't get it, just please take my advice and transfer schools right away. Issei serious, transfer schools? You do realize I just transferred here, right? Besides, I'm not a coward and I don't run away just because someone threatens me, remember what I said back on the flight. Chiffon I'm the Red Dragon Emperor, and that title carries a lot of weight, and if I were to run away just because someone allegedly might come after me, then I don't deserve such a title. Chiffon worried, listen to me, Aoi, this is not like some street thug or gang members that you probably ran into. We are talking about a Pandora who has proper combat experience on top of having the power of stigmata on top of it. Whatever you may have had will be essentially useless against her. Issei. Serious, you know, underestimating your opponent is a surefire way to lose a fight, you know. As Chiffon and Issei were more or less arguing about why Issei should not go see Satellaizer and just transfer schools. A bus was pulling up beside them that was coming from the medical wing, and inside was no other than Satellaizer, who was looking out the window where the boy who was caught was right outside. She couldn't help but wonder why this boy seemed different than the rest and his touch didn't feel bad like the others. Meanwhile, outside the bus, Chiffon was telling Issei on why she is called the untouchable queen and that before she came to West Genetics, she supposedly caused a lot of trouble in East Genetics. While Chiffon was going about what Satellaizer did in East Genetics, the person in question just stepped out of the bus, which was noticed by both Taisi and Issei. Her right eye was patched and she was essentially walking on a crutch. As Taisi was trying to tug on Chiffon's shirt to tell her to stop talking, Issei couldn't help but have a sad look on his face, since he was the one who essentially did this to her. When Chiffon finally realized that Satellaizer was walking next to them, she panicked and stepped away from Issei. As she was walking away, Issei decided this would probably be the best time to try to apologize to her for his unintentional interference. Issei. Serious, Ms. Satellaizer, can we talk for a second? Satellaizer. Silent while continuing to walk away. Issei. Serious, hey wait, grabs her hand, I just want to talk. When Issei grabbed Sattellaizer's hand, she became flustered and in a panic, she forcefully removed herself from Issei, which sadly caused her to trip and drop her glasses. But the thing that caught everyone by surprise, or at least Chiffon and Taisi, was how she acted shy and cute when trying to look for her glasses. Satellaizer. Concern, oh no, my glasses, where are my glasses? Issei mind, curious, why do I feel like I've seen this scenario before? It was then Issei went over and picked up her glasses and kneeled down in front of her and presented her glasses, which caused Satellaizer to smile in relief. When she put on her glasses, she looked at Issei with a kind and caring smile on his face, which caused her to blush and become flustered. Satellaizer. Flustered, She then quickly tries to run away but is stopped when grabbed by Issei. Satellaizer, Chiffon and Taisi were shocked on how adamant Issei was to try to talk to her, while Satellaizer was just shocked that this boy was touching her again. Both Chiffon and Taisi became super worried for Issei, since he was probably about to get hospitalized for touching her. Issei. Serious, wait, don't go. Chiffon. Taisi. Gasped. Issei. Serious, look, I know that it's my fault that you have all those injuries on top of it. I know that a simple I'm sorry wouldn't cut it, but confused, huh? Satellaizer. Trembling in fear, please let me go. Issei mind, confused, what's wrong with her? Satellaizer. Trembling in fear, let me go. Issei. Confused, I just want to talk, that's all. Satellaizer. Annoyed, you have no right to touch me like that. Issei. Serious, Satellaizer, please wait. Satellaizer. Annoyed, I'm finished with you, don't ever come near me again. It was then Satellaizer activated her Volt weapon and put it up against Issei's throat. Issei was honestly confused on why Satellaizer was acting this way. That was until he saw the look in her eyes, a look that he was all too familiar with since his friend Momo had that same look in her eyes when they became friends. Issei mind, saddened, she was molested. Issei. Saddened, I'm sorry, please forgive. I didn't know. Satellaizer. Confused, huh? During Issei's first year in middle, he was coming out of the convenience store that he would soon be working at after school. He had just some groceries that he needed for dinner and was heading home until he heard a girl screaming from the alley next to the store. When he went to check out what was happening, he saw his classmate Momo Hanakai being molested by some creepy ugly bastard looking motherfucker. Of course, Issei did the obvious and ran up to the guy and punched him in the face and told him to back off. He even grabbed a nearby pipe to keep him down. When he asked Momo if she was okay, she had a look of distraught of what just happened, which caused Issei enraged at the fucker that did this to Momo and beated him a little bit for doing that, since he hated molesters just as much as rapists. After Issei called the cops and told them what happened, poor Momo wasn't the same for a while, since she was sensitive to touch and was wary of everyone around her. Even her own parents couldn't even lay a finger on her, she was so traumatized. The only person that she was okay with was Issei. Some may say she practically clinged on to Issei, since she felt that he was only to be okay around, and whenever he touched her appropriately, she didn't get that nasty feeling like the others. Issei on the other hand felt bad for Momo, since he felt like the only reason why she was around him so much was because he saved her, so he took it upon herself to help her get back to being the Momo that everyone knew her as. It was slow and hard, but she became the girl that everyone knew her as, and even took some self-defense classes to help boost her confidence. It was by then both Momo and Issei actually started to become real friends, until they went to Kuo together and she joined the student council. But what Issei didn't know was that Momo had developed a crush for him, and the main reason why she joined the student council and became a devil was so that she could become strong enough to protect Issei for everything he did for her. Issei was brought up with his thoughts about what happened to Sadalizer when they both heard someone laughing. When they looked to see where the source of the laughter was coming from, it was Ganessa, which caused Sadalizer to glare at her. Ganessa laughs honestly, even I would never think you sink so low, show some dignity in defeat. Taking your resentment on a poor underclassman, you should be ashamed of yourself. Annoyed, giving me a dirty look now, are you? If you're bitter about the results of the carnival, don't blame me. I didn't find my victory that satisfying either. Issei mind, deadpan. Then why did you take the cheap shot, then? Ganessa smirks. However, putting our personal feelings aside, the fact of the matter is I'm rank 1, like it or not. The untouchable queen has been dethroned and the angel of binding has her on a short leash. Sadly is her. Glaring TSK. Ganessa smirk. So turn tail and lick your wounds until the next carnival, where you might be able to win your dignity back. Or you should just give up on your title altogether, points at Issei. It looks like you found yourself a cute little limiter to play with. I think you would make a far better queen of the kitchen anyways. I for one wouldn't miss it if you decide to take a permanent vacation. Oh, forgive me, I forgot that a gorilla like you is only suited for violence. You are untouchable, meaning that no one would ever want to touch you. Issei surprised and curious. Wait, you mean to tell me that Sadalizer doesn't have a limiter, even though she's a second year and ranked 1? Chiffon worried. No, she hasn't. Issei mind, sad, and I guess I shouldn't be surprised since I know what you have to do in order to have a limiter, and given Sadalizer's situation, she'll most likely be the only Pandora in the world without one. Ganessa smirks. You won't give up, will you? I can tell by the obstinate glare you're shooting at, that suits me just fine. Even if you do defeat me, I have nothing to lose. Unless we battle in the carnival, our ranks will stay the same. If I have to drill in my superiority into that thick skull of yours, then drill I shall. Chiffon worried. No. Pandora fighting outside of the carnival is against the school rules. Can't you just solve this without being violent? Issei confused. Can't you two just stop this? Issei smiles weakly. It's no big deal, fights like these are a dime a dozen. Issei sighs in annoyance. Then I guess I will have to be the one to stop this then. Chiffon Issei confused. Huh? Ganessa smirks. Volt weapon, deploy chains of binding. Prepare yourself, Sadalizer. It was then 6 chains with giant arrowheads sprouted out from her back. But before Sadalizer could think about deploying her volt weapon, Issei stepped in front, which confused everyone that was watching. Issei serious. I think this little joke has gone far enough, don't you think? Sadalizer confused. What are you doing? Issei serious. Stopping this before it escalates even further. Sadalizer annoyed. I don't need your help. Issei serious. Don't get this twisted. Sadalizer confused. Huh? Issei serious. I'm a guy who believes in a fair fight more or less, and if you were already healed up and in top condition I would let you two have it. But you're not, and all it will do will send you back to the medical wing even if you do win. Once you are all healed up, if you want to go after her for a fight, then go ahead, I won't stop you, but right now is not the time. Sadalizer blushes. Ganessa smirks. Would you look at that little Miss Untouchable Queen who has gotten herself a little white knight to protect her. Issei serious. I'm not protecting her. Ganessa confused. Huh? Issei serious. I can already tell from first glance that if she wants to, the Sadalizer can kick your ass all the way to next week. If it wasn't for my interference, then it would definitely be you being patched right now, but right now she's not at 100%, so you'll have to wait until she fully heals if you wish to fight her again. Chiffon mind, mopes. You're not even gonna try to convince them to wait until the carnival. Ganessa annoyed. How dare you? You are an underclassman telling your seniors what to do. Smirks. I guess since you're new here and as your senior it's my duty to drill into you on how things work here. Issei mind, deadpanned. If she only knew that I was technically old enough to her dad. Greg snickers. Maybe you should make her start calling you daddy. Issei mind, tick mark. That's it, you are so getting it when I go to sleep later. Greg grins. Like I said before, bring it, bitch. It was then Ganessa about to launch her chains straight into Issei, but her chains could reach. Issei said something that shocked everyone. Issei serious freezing. But that command, a large field of blue honeycomb-shaped lights covered the area and brought Ganessa down to her knees. The scene shocked everyone, especially Chiffon and Issei, since they knew Issei hadn't performed the baptism yet. Sadalizer mind, shocked. He can perform a freezing without an arraigner set. Blushes while confused. Even though he touched me it didn't feel bad. Ganessa annoyed and confused. How the hell can you perform a freezing without a arraigner set being activated? Issei serious. That doesn't matter. If you promise to walk away peacefully, I'll disable the freezing area. Ganessa annoyed. Why, you think just because you can put me in a freezing area you can order me around? Issei serious. Ganessa Annoyed, that's it, I'm going to teach you why you should respect your seniors and not get into their business. Pandora mode. Chiffon. Panics ms. Roland, you need to stop this. Pandora mode is only authorized during real combat situations, not settle things between students. Vanessa. Annoyed, for me this battle is as real as it can get. Plus I need to teach this brat a lesson he'll never forget. It was then a bright blue light emerged out of Ganessa and her hair started to become white and her eyes turned yellow. Her body was glowing with a white aura with blue rings on her ankle and wrists in which she was able to stand and move around in the freezing area. Vanessa. Smirks, what now? Since freezing is essentially useless, there is no way you can defeat me, but if you get on your knees and beg for forgiveness, I'll make your punishment a lot less painful. Issei. Sighs in annoyance, you still haven't learned, have you? Vanessa. Confused, huh? Everyone. Confused, huh? It was then Issei started to casually walk up to Ganessa, which shocked her greatly, but also made her scared for some reason, since why didn't the boy in front of her be terrified that he lost his only way to defeat her? Issei. Serious, you know, I would have thought you would act more mature and sympathetic, especially after what happened to you and the rest of the other girls last year. Especially after what happened to Marin. Vanessa. Shocked, how do you know about that? Everyone else. Confused, huh? Issei. Serious, though I will admit you definitely have gotten a lot stronger since then and in some ways Marin would be proud of you. But it seems you still need to learn to have some humility, especially with your fellow Pandora Volt armor deploy. It was then Issei began to glow in a bright red color with red electricity surrounding him. Within it, Issei's body was being coated in a sort of synthetic armor that essentially hugged his body. When it was done, what stood before everyone was a person in red and black synthetic armor with gold accents. Even though the armor didn't look like it was protective, it was actually strong enough to withstand the blast from a god-class being. Everyone in the area was beyond shocked by what they just witnessed. A boy who is also an underclassman was able to do something that Pandora could do. But the one who was the most shocked was Ganessa, cause she saw that armor before. She saw it last year when the S-type Nova attacked her and her platoon during their training session and before her platoon leader Marin died. That armor belonged to only one person, the one person who has been killing Nova for the last few years now and has Chevalier running around like a bunch of conspiracy theorists. Vanessa. Beyond shocked, it can't be, you're the Red Nova Slayer. Everyone. Shocked, what? Chiffon mind, shocked Issei is the Red Nova Slayer, but that's impossible. That would mean he has the powers of both the Pandora and the Transcendent Will. Sadlizer mind, shocked, so the rumors were true, the Red Nova Slayer is real and it was a man this entire time. Confused, but that doesn't make sense since the Red Nova Slayer has been around for at least 8, which would mean this boy would have to have been fighting them since he was 8 years old. Would that even be possible? Issei. Raises his hand, now then it's time for us to rebel against the heavens themselves. Volt weapons deploy, Draconic Revolution. It was then a large red and black two-handed broadsword with draconic style came forth. The blade itself was mostly red with black accents on the edges of the blade, but if looked closely enough, it looked like the blades were made out of scales. The guard of the blades had dragon-like claws curving upwards towards the blade itself, while the handle of the sword was made out of a black steel with a red gem at the pommel. Issei. Serious, now then points sword at Ganessa, do you wish to continue fighting? Ganessa. Nervous, Aya shakes head, then smirking, you think you can scare me just because you're the Red Nova Slayer, like you said before, I'm a lot stronger than before. It was then Ganessa turned the arrowheads on her chains into buzzsaws and launched them towards Issei. As the buzzsaws were speeding towards Issei, who was just standing there, everyone was getting concerned about what would happen to Issei. Even Sadlizer was starting to get somewhat concerned about what would happen to him. But then he said something that shocked everyone beyond belief, especially Chiffon and Sadlizer, since they both knew that there was only one girl in the world who could do that. Issei. Serious quadruple acceleration. It was then Issei disappeared in a burst of speed, in which all of a sudden the chains that were heading towards him were destroyed, and Ganessa received a huge slash to her side. Behind her was Issei, who stood there casually, and the blade was stained with Ganessa's blood, in which he just swung it around to remove it. It was then Ganessa finally fell face first to the ground due to the damage done to her, as well as the amount of blood loss. She was still alive but unable to fight. Issei then walked over Ganessa's body to check her status, but before he could reach her, he was stopped when he had blades pointed at his neck and abdomen. When turned to see who was pointing those weapons at him, he couldn't help but smirk, since he knew who these women were. The first woman was a woman with a very buxom figure in her early 20s. She has short dark brown hair that extends down to her neck, while the rest comes further down into her face in several bangs, as well as leaving her ears visible at the sides and brown eyes. Her outfit consists of a pale blue, long-sleeved shirt with a navy blue tie and matching skirt, accompanied with long brown stockings and a pair of black, high-heeled shoes. This woman was Yumi Kim, a teacher at West Genetics who fought in the 8 Nova clash with Kazuha Aoi. The second person was a tall woman with short green hair that reached her neck, accompanied with dark eyes. Her hair comes down onto her face in several bangs and a ponytail tied up in the back. Her outfit consists of a white lab coat over a lavender, long-sleeved, button-down shirt, a dark brown skirt, light brown stockings and light brown boots. This woman was Elise Schmitz, the school doctor at West Genetics, as well another Pandora who fought in the 8 Nova clash. She's also a good friend of Yumi. Back then Issei was very protective of his sister Kazuha. Issei was so protective of his sister when he was 11 years old when they both taking a bath together, and Issei saw how his sister got bruise on her cheek, which angered him greatly since no one, and he meant no one hurts his family and gets away with it, which led him to meet his sister's senpais Yumi and Elise, who were surprised on how muscular he was despite being 11-year-old, and when Issei accused Yumi of hurting her sister, Yumi desperately, to try to plea innocent, which caused Issei glare unintentionally cutely at her, which caused both Yumi and Elise to blush on how cute and adorable he looked. Elise smiles my if it isn't the legendary and elusive Red Nova Slayer. I must say actually seeing you in person is quite the honor indeed. Yumi. Serious even so, can you explain what you are doing here and hurting our students? Issei. Smirks under helmet. It's truly been a while, hasn't it Elise Yumi-san? Yumi Elise. Shocked huh? Elise. Serious care to explain how you know our names. Yumi. Glaring I would also like to know and you better make it quick before I make your armor more red than it should be. Issei. Playfully pretends to get hurt. Ouch, that really hurts you too, especially you Yumi. I can't believe you don't recognize me. Even you said I was the cutest guy you ever met and you wanted me to marry you when I was all grown up. Yumi. Flustered what? Elise mind, serious why does that conversation sound so familiar? Eyes widening in realization it can't be. Issei. Smirks I also noticed how you're acting a lot stricter than back then, man did my rejection hurt you that much? Geez Yumi I was only 11 years old and I tried to be as gentle as I could since I thought you were just teasing me and thought you ended up with your limiter. Yumi. Embarrassed and annoyed that's it I'm going to. Elise. Shocked eyes. Yumi. Confused huh? Elise. Curious eyes, is that you? Yumi. Confused what are you talking about Elise? Issei has been missing for 5 years, not even Intel at Chevalier haven't been able to find him. Sad and we just assume the fact that Issei is dead. Issei. Nodding while sighing in disappointment of course my grandfather hasn't really told anyone that I was back. So typical of him of not telling anyone anything until it blows up in his face. Smiles but at least one of you was somehow able to recognize me, thanks Elise deactivates armor. Once the armor was deactivated both women blushed and were in shock of the person that was in the armor. They both saw a boy with spiky black hair with red highlights to the side, as well as having red crimson eyes, and despite losing all his baby fat, this was no undeniable truth that the person in front of them was no other than Issei Aoi, the younger brother of Kazuha Aoi. After Issei discovered that his older sister died from turning into a nova, he decided to run away since he needed time away from his grandfather and everything related to the Aoi family. Gengo Aoi became extremely concerned since he couldn't find his grandson anywhere, even with Chevalier's resources and intel there was no way of finding him, it was like he disappeared from the face of the earth. But in reality Issei was just in the dimensional gap with his parents' training, while getting over the loss of his sister. Great Red and Ophis were kind of enough to give Issei his own space within the dimensional gap where he could sleep and train, it was essentially his room so to speak. The only time he would leave the gap would be to take down Nova and attend street races. It wasn't until he turned 15 and after some convincing from his grandmother that he decided to return to his grandfather and when he asked Issei where he's been for the 4 years, he just said that a nice couple took me in and I've been living there as their son. When Gengo asked who the couple were so that he could thank them for looking out for his grandson, he told him that they don't like being bothered but that they know that he was grateful to them. When both of the women finally saw that this boy in front of them was actually Issei, poor Yumi couldn't cry while hugging Issei in a tight bear hug which was sadly suffocating him. Yumi. Crying while hugging Issei to death it's really you Ice, where have you been? Do you know I worried I was when I found out that you ran away. Issei. Smiling weakly while trying to breath it's good to see you too Yumi, but can you please let go? Yumi. Crying while squeezing tighter no, cause then you run away again. Issei. Suffocating I won't I Jesus fucking Christ this is getting a lot harder to breath Elise help me out here. Click. It was then Issei looked towards Elise who had her phone out with a smile on her face. Issei. Suffocating are you fucking serious right now? Elise. Smiles my you've certainly developed quite the potty mouth since we last saw you. Why wouldn't I take a picture? It's not every day that we get to see our pouty prince all grown up. Issei. Suffocating while at tick Marco I swear to fucking god if you start bringing back that nickname I will. Yumi. Crying while squeezing tighter language. Elise. Giggles while smiling you know I could help you out if you were to say cook me some delicious steak. Issei. Suffocating while sweat dropping. Are you seriously doing this right now? For fuck's sake, if you want me to cook you some, then all you have to do is fucking ask. Elias. Surprised really? Smiles. I would have thought it would be a lot harder to convince you to do so otherwise, because of how stubborn you used to be. As Issei was complaining to Elias on how crappy she was being right now trying to help him get out Yumi's death hug, Yumi did notice something different about Issei, or more like how he felt. She could tell that Issei seemed to feel more firm and bulkier, and if what she was feeling was right, it seemed Issei developed some muscle. Curious, she decided to put Issei down finally, who was finally to breathe again, while Elias had a somewhat disappointed look. Issei. Breaths. Oh thank goodness. Elias. Smirks. Ah, Yumi couldn't hold out for just a minute longer. I was about to have Issei cook for me for the rest of his life. Issei. Sweat drops. How you became a teacher, let alone a doctor, is beyond me. Yumi. Serious. Issei. Issei. Curious. Yeah. Yumi. Serious. I want you to put your arms up. Issei. Confused. Why? Yumi. Serious. Just do it. Issei. Confused while putting his arms up. Okay, but I really don't see any reason to. It was then Yumi lifted up Issei's shirt, which revealed his hardened 8-pack abs, which looked like they were sculpted out of marble. All of the girls in the vicinity couldn't help blush and drool at the sight of it, even Sadalizer couldn't help but blush a little on how fit Issei was, as well as Ganessa, who finally was able to regain consciousness, couldn't help blush madly at the sight she just woke up to. As if on cue, some of the girls in the crowd couldn't help but take a picture of Issei's abs, even Elias took a picture 1-4 later. Having enough of this, Issei forcefully put his shirt back down while having an embarrassed look on his face. Issei. Annoyed and embarrassed. What the hell was that for? Yumi. Smirks. You've certainly put in some work these last 5 years, haven't you? Elias. Smirks. I'll say, gotta ask, who's the lucky lady you're trying to impress, or you trying to impress Yumi here? Yumi. Flustered. What? Elias. Grins mischievously. You know, after you left, poor Yumi here cried herself to sleep for a month straight, thinking that her sweet little ice-con ran away from her. So if I were you better take responsibility for making her feel that way. Yumi. Embarrassed. Elias. You promised to never mention that to anyone. Issei. Sighs in annoyance. It seems you two have become quite perverted since I've been gone. Walks away. I'm tired, so I'm going to my room. Yumi. Serious. Issei. Wait. Issei. Waves her off. Whatever you're gonna say, can it wait until tomorrow? I'm honestly exhausted and I think there's been too many surprises for one day, don't you think? Elias. Serious, but Issei. Issei. Looks back at them with a warm smile. I'm glad that you both are doing great, and I know we'll have plenty to talk about soon enough. But right now I just want to rest. Elias. Yumi. Blushes. Gasp. It was then Issei walked over to Sadalizer to wish her a happy recovery. Issei. Smiles. I hope you get well soon, Sadalizer. Sadalizer. Confused while blushing a bit. Thank you. As he continued on his walk towards the boys' dorm, he was stopped by Chiffon. Chiffon. Serious. Issei. Issei. Curious. Chiffon. Serious. You can't just ignore your teachers and walk away, it's extremely rude, plus you need to explain to them what happened. Issei. Serious. I promise to explain everything tomorrow, but right now, like I said, I'm tired and would like to get some sleep. Chiffon. Serious. But before Chiffon could say anything, Issei quickly ran up next to her before anyone could even notice and to whisper something into Chiffon's ear that made her both speechless and shocked beyond belief. Issei. Whisper. Smirks. I'll be seeing you around, auntie. But that Issei left to head towards the boys' dormitory, all leaving a stunned and speechless Chiffon. Chiffon mind in disbelief, he knows. And let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.